Hey traders, welcome to another video. It does look like we are seeing quite a bit of movement to the upside for a lot of the alts. So this video is going to be dedicated really on the alt season, this upcoming second phase of this bull run, where we think that alts are going to appreciate at a greater rate than Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin will be doing well, but things like Ethereum, Cardano have already been outpacing BTC within this bull run, and I think that the overall environment where alts are appreciating at a greater rate than Bitcoin is going to continue until the later half of the bull run, or basically the end of the bull run there. So firstly, we want to look at Bitcoin. We'll move on to the Bitcoin dominance chart, the BTC.D, and then we're going to head into the relative strength and weakness tool for a little bit, and then we're going to dive in to look at these different charts all paired with USDT, but our relative strength and weakness tool is using Bitcoin as the comparison. So let's first look at Bitcoin compared to the US dollar. We're going to take it back all the way to the daily chart and kind of have a quick understanding of where we currently are in the market. So let's get our volume so it's a little bit more easily readable, and then we'll zoom out a little bit, and then we'll jump into what we're currently seeing. So let's get our draw tool and discuss what we're able to identify. So kind of going back to what we had initially, we had our nice descending wedge right here that was holding our series of slightly lower lows and lower highs. We did have that key level of support right there hold, and we had our first very strong impulsive push to the upside. This is where we had our wind up to break past this key zone of confluence, because we had this range right here basically just keep us range bound for a very long time. On a large time frame, this was a wick to the upside and it smashed back down. So I value this area right here as the wind up to break out of the larger consolidation zone. As we can see, there was a failed wind up right there where we saw an ascending zone break. It failed to make a lower low, came back up above the support, and then basically broke out of the descending wedge. And this is the wind up to break our key level of confluence, where we had these two high, lower high, and then we had one more lower high validated as a descending trend line, excuse me. And then we had this key level of resistance that we've had multiple times, which finally broke. So that was our key level of confluence that broke. Since that, we have been seeing a strong push to the upside. I am expecting a further continuation of the bull run, and we'll get into a smaller time frame of what we've been seeing so far within that breakout period. But breaking this zone around 43, 42K was a major level of significance that has shifted the structure from a consolidation, sideways, horizontal, to a now upward momentum. We had the descending zone right here, and then it turned into a horizontal zone when we got this area, this consolidation. And then from this consolidation point, my expectation is we are now furthering to continue to push to the upside for BTC. So that's going to be my overall outlook on a larger time frame. I think we're going to be still continuing to push to the upside. If we just take our nice kind of size of the formation, let's not take that one, let's take this one. We can see we got a ton of room before we're actually going to be hitting a key zone of significance, where we're seeing the target hit for the size of this triangle. But as of right now, you could do it from the wedge, and we still have a lot of room. So let's get that going as well. So regardless, the first target I did already put there around 60K, the right shoulder of this head and shoulders. Larger target is the all-time high at around 64,000, but overall, regardless of what you're looking at, we still have a lot of room to go before our first major target, and I'm expecting Bitcoin to continue to push to the upside. So we'll take these out, and then we'll move on to a smaller time frame to discuss what happened from the breakout to where we currently are right now. Let's move to a smaller time frame here. Let's first move to a 12-hour, just talking a little bit about structure, and then let's get our print screen and get another customized little draw on here. So this is really well structured push to the upside. This is the wind up, as we can see right here. This push to the upside, you see the price being able to retest previous levels of resistance, retest previous levels of resistance, making higher highs and higher lows, holding previous resistance as new level of support, previous resistance as new level of support. So it's looking very structured, great push to the upside, but we are seeing a slight consolidation at this point where we're not seeing a strong push, a tightening, and then a further continuation similar to this. We're kind of seeing a strong push and then it being less significant for the upside momentum, and it's kind of taking almost like a banana shape where you get the initial push and it kind of slowly gets less and less aggressive and less buy pressure coming into the market. So during times like this, we usually see a strong push, a consolidation, and then some correction, some pullback where you're able to get a great continuational pattern to the upside. So at this point right now, we are moving to the upside. I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a slight pullback. And then we're going to be looking for a nice continuational consolidation before push to the upside. So it doesn't have to be very aggressive. I am expecting this previous resistance to hold this guy right here. And we're seeing that pullback right now. So we're seeing the push, we're seeing the pullback to validate. And it looks like we're now seeing the wind up for that next bullish push. Let's make that draw a little bit more clean. So we got this zone, and we got this zone. So initially we had this ascending triangle formation, and then we're having a descending triangle formation with this higher low holding and this descending zone squeezing the price, contracting the price towards the apex of the structure, and then I think we're going to see a push after this contraction is complete. So let's now go to a smaller time frame like the 4-hour here and make this a little bit easier to see, as well as the volume, like so. All right, so let's draw the same thing again. This is our wind up, and this is our first true consolidation phase after the wind up. So we'll discuss what I currently see and what could arise from what we're currently seeing right now. So we did see a nice descending or ascending triangle. Let's just redraw that again, somewhere around, let's say like here, maybe a little bit lower. There we go. So that's our horizontal zone that was pushing the price closer. Let's actually make that a different color so it's easier to identify the two different zones. So you got this initial push to the upside, this squeeze, and then we had the break to the upside and a pullback. Let's draw that in, let's say, orange. So this is a new phase of the market. Let's draw that a little bit further. New phase of the market right here. And now this is pulling back to validate this previous resistance as a new level of support. So we're going to draw that in like so. And then the final phase is going to be the continuational push to the upside. So we'll get our pullback, and then we're going to see our push to the upside. So what we're seeing right now is the pullback from this descending wedge right here. It made an initial push, pullback, and it looks like we're winding up to enter our third phase of the market, which is the expansionary phase of the market we can see right here. So this was the tightening. As we can see, this was the tightening. This is the breakout phase where we see a push, a pullback validating a previous level of resistance as a new level of support, and then we're going to get our expansion phase to the upside. That's currently what I see within the market to really try to simplify what we're currently seeing. And then if we take off the no draw and we actually incorporate our draw, we can see that exact sort of structure where if we just do a print screen one last time, we can see this ascending triangle formation initially create a squeeze right here. And then we saw our pop. This is now our second phase in the market where we're breaking out and validating that previous resistance into a new level of support, like so. And then the last phase of the market is when we're going to be actually expanding our volatility. So right now we pulled back to our resistance, which is now holding as a support for our descending wedge formation, which is looking phenomenal right here. And I'm expecting it to continue to the upside pretty soon here. So that's my overall expectation of BTC. We'll quickly look at the Bitcoin dominance as well as Bitcoin volatility, because we are talking about the increase in Bitcoin volatility. So we'll take a zoom out. Going to touch on the Bitcoin volatility, and then we're going to jump right into the BTC.D chart. So You can take a look at the previous videos. We usually see structures of like blocks of volatility. So like this is the average volatility within the range of, let's say, June to October of 2020. We see this new range of volatility from, let's say, December of 2020 all the way till the current present day. And we're seeing that we do have kind of a low of volatility that we recently hit. And it looks like we're coming back up to increase the volatility, which is correlating really well with what we're expecting. Because right now we're contracting, we're consolidating, and that's decreasing the overall volatility for Bitcoin, which is fantastic because it allows us to wind up for our next strong push, where we're going to be seeing an increase in volatility as well as the increase in price of Bitcoin. So now we're going to look at the BTC.D chart. We can see that BTC is already breaking to the upside. We've talked about the structures that it's creating and the potential exponential push to the upside that we are going to be seeing in the near future. We already see the altcoin market is well on its way. Let's quickly draw the zone of confluence for BTC.D. So let's do a quick draw here. So this is the key wedge that we've been talking about since maybe like around here when we saw this high and the higher high. We connected the higher highs and looked for one or two more, which we did see a little bit later in the consolidation. But this is our wedge. This is our alt run part 1, and I think we're going to see an alt run part 2 come into play here pretty quickly. The main target is going to be 28%, meaning that in the entire cryptocurrency market cap, Bitcoin only has 28% of the entire cryptocurrency market cap compared to the rest of the alts all added together. Right? Seems pretty far off, but we've seen massive dumps in the BTC.D chart when we do see alt seasons come in. And my expectation is we will see another alt season come in, which is like an alt season part 2. And this is going to be very, very bearish, meaning that altcoins are going to be very bullish. And this is the zone of confluence right here. So if you don't know about zones of confluence, I don't have an exact thing that we can do, but this right here is our zone of confluence, this little pizza slice all along here. Below this zone is the breakout, and then if it goes above it, it's invalidating this structure. So we're basically saying that this structure is no longer valid. So this is like the pizza slice pie slice kind of thing, whatever you want to look at as, which is the major confluence zone. Once we break this major confluence zone, we have the full confidence and conviction that we are in fact starting a new trend to the upside, and that's what it looks like we're seeing right now. So in my personal view, I think that alt season has already started, and we can see that by looking at the BTC.D chart as well as the relative strength and weakness chart we'll take a look at next. But overall, looks very bullish. BTC's consolidation, altcoins are the place to be in my opinion. Yes, Bitcoin will be appreciating, but I think a lot of altcoins that are relatively strong will be appreciating at a much, much greater rate than Bitcoin. For example, take a look at Sol or Cardano recently. They've been absolutely mooning, which is fantastic to see. So now we're going to take a quick look at the Bitcoin relative strength, or the altcoin relative strength and weakness chart or tool. Going to have a quick drink of coffee, and then we're going to jump right into what we're able to identify looking at this tool. All right, nothing like coffee. So we're going to be looking at a couple different time frames here. Let's first take a look at the start of the year. So this is at the basically right at 2021. Where are we right now? So this is the start of 2021 compared to Bitcoin. This is the main thing that I think many people don't use in the cryptocurrency world, is altcoins compared to Bitcoin. Because really Bitcoin is the benchmark you're trying to break, basically. You're trying to beat Bitcoin in appreciation. If you're not beating Bitcoin, might as well just invest in Bitcoin. It's the longest history. It is the most amount of network effect in terms of how many people are using it and the overall interest and the overall exposure that Bitcoin has for new individuals just getting into the space. So Bitcoin is the benchmark, and you're trying to beat it by investing in these more speculative, smaller market cap altcoins. And from 2021, we see Matic going over 5,200% increasing more than Bitcoin, which is pretty unbelievable. Doge is actually second, which is very surprising. It's up over 4,420% over Bitcoin. And we see things like PancakeSwap, Luna, which is a really interesting project that we've been talking about in our Discord. Things like the Mirror protocol is really cool. Looking at M assets. If you don't know anything about Luna, definitely check that out. QNT, also a really, really interesting project. Quant, they're basically targeting interoperability within different blockchains and distributed ledger technologies, DLTs. Kind of think about it as like the TCP/IP protocol, like the transmission control protocol or internet protocol, which basically connected the different interconnected or connected the networks that created the interconnected networks we call the internet today. So QNT is, in my opinion, going to impact blockchain and distributed ledger technology as much as what TCP/IP did for the internet, allowing these different networks to connect together, which basically created the foundation of the internet. So TCP/IP is basically interoperability with different networks, and Quant is the same sort of thing, interoperability within different distributed ledger technologies. So it's kind of the same thing if you don't know the impacts of what TCP/IP did or UDP/IP, kind of the same thing there. Lossy, lossless, there's some differences, but overall, the underlying technology and the impact it will have is kind of similar in terms of the interoperability. So if you don't know of Quant, definitely check that out. A lot of fundamental reasons I think it's bullish, and it's kind of not a very well-known crypto compared to things like XRP or ADA is a very common one. Like I hear more and more friends talk about, oh, is Cardano a good investment? Well, if you're into smart contracts, no. But regardless, Quant's a really good one. We see ADA, Cardano, BNB, HBAR, VeChain, Zen, which is Horizon, Uni, XRP, AAVE, Sushi, Theta. All these are doing better than Bitcoin since 2021, which is really what we're seeing. Or we're wanting to see, for these relatively strong altcoins. So if we zoom into, let's say, the start of May, just quickly looking at when our major dump was. So we're looking at around like mid to later May 20th and on, ideally. So let's look at May 20th and on. So let's just do May 24th. So this is since the consolidation start of Bitcoin, because we're looking at basically since the major dip, what has done the best? What has been relatively strong compared to the rest of the alts that we're seeing? And the two ones that really stand out are Luna, which is a really cool project. I haven't dug too much into it. Basically, in short, they have a lot of different tentacles in different projects for sure, but they're really basing off of the stablecoin protocol that they have, where instead of just the amount of liquidity in a pool to be increasing or decreasing, they kind of use a swap where you're able to swap Luna and burn it for UST, or swap UST and burn it for Luna, depending on if it's above or below the peg of $1 for UST for $1 USD. So they're basically either burning or adding more liquidity. There's a really great video on their website. It's kind of hard to explain just with words, but they're basically creating a more efficient way and a more transparent way to utilize stable coins, not just with USD, but they also have a South Korean stable coin, and they're implementing these major currencies and adding stable coins to them, which is pretty interesting. It's kind of like the central bank digital currency aspect, but they're a private company and they're based in kind of the Southeast Asia quadrant. And it's a really interesting project. And they also have things like M assets, which are mirror assets, which mimic the price action of really any asset. You could talk about stocks, bonds, commodities, other cryptocurrencies. You could really mirror anything. So that's a really interesting project. And they also have some other stuff on the go as well. So definitely, if you haven't looked at Luna, definitely check that out. QNT we've already talked about, and a lot of the major DeFi projects are also near the top as well. Things like Cake, things like BNB is not really DeFi or anything, but it does play a pretty crucial role for exchanges as the largest exchange. We see AAVE, which is a very solid DeFi project in my view. Comp's doing really well as well. I think that Comp is looking like it's setting up for a beautiful push to the upside soon. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely please do. But we can see past around Ethereum, the rest of the alts are actually weak compared to Bitcoin. So things like Cake, XRP, ADA, ETH, Luna, QNT, looking at this time frame, are relatively stronger than the rest. Things like Theta, Sushi, DOT, not as strong. So we'll look at the really small time frame, just looking at the start of July here for a little bit. Well, we could do a little bit longer, so like maybe just a month. So this is the 16th of August. We'll do 16th of July. And we see a lot of these relatively strong altcoins are continuing to push the upside, kind of regardless of the time frame that we're seeing. Luna, we've already talked about. QNT, we talked about. DOT, we haven't talked about too much, but is a pretty well-known project. VeChain, we haven't talked a lot about. Sushi is another DeFi project that I'm keeping a very close eye on. XRP, DOGE, Link, Uni. So we do see the closer we get in terms of the time frame, the more alts are above the baseline of 0, which is really what we're trying to beat, which is the benchmark of Bitcoin. So things like XLM and up, Ethereum, Cake, AAVE, Theta, Cardano, Matic, all these are doing better than Bitcoin, which is great to see. So the more altcoins we have above the benchmark, which is Bitcoin, I perceive to be more bullish the overall cryptocurrency market is, or the more speculative the cryptocurrency market is, because in bull runs, in speculative environments, you see altcoins appreciate at a greater rate than Bitcoin. And we're starting to see from the longer time frame, looking back from the consolidation in late March all the way until our current time frame, we see that there is more and more altcoins above the benchmark the closer time frames you get to, which in my eyes are indicating that on a smaller time frame it looks like there is more speculation coming into play, which is for me indicating that we are entering the phase 2 of this bull run, which is basically altcoin season part 2. So we're going to look at some altcoins now. Hopefully that did give you a little bit of an understanding of where we are, maybe gave you some hints as to what coins that you could be looking at for potential investments. I think that we are still very early in this phase 2 bull run. So if you haven't already, definitely set this up, because having this relative strength weakness tool is very, very helpful. So we're now going to look at some altcoins. We already took a dive into the BTC.D chart and the Bitcoin chart. And we're not going to talk about any of the global macro things that we normally talk about, like the dollar or stocks or anything regarding that. So we're going to take a first look at Ethereum, which would be in this section. Kind of halting a little bit around the $3,300 zone. Let's go to the 2-day. We see, let's go to the 1-day. There's a little bit more information there. So we see a lot of hesitation for our head and shoulders around that $3,300 level. And we see now we're pressing up against it to really create either an ascending channel, not really a wedge, or an ascending triangle. If we just take this off right here, and if we continue to press along that $3,300 zone, and if we finally break it, that's a great continuation pattern for an ascending wedge formation, because we do see a lot of sensitivity around this zone. Makes sense that there's sellers, but my overall bias for Ethereum is continuing to push to the upside. First target is at around 3,580, 3,600. So we do still have a little bit of room before we hit our first target. But overall, we see the Bitcoin.D chart moving to the downside, indicating alts are pushing to the upside. Ethereum is the largest altcoin and market cap. So I am viewing this to be an asset that a lot of capital will be flowing into in the near future. So you could look at smaller time frames, like a break of the 33, but I'm kind of swing trading, not really looking at like 15-minute or some small time frame. So I'm swing trading, looking at larger time frames, and I'm very comfortable just holding this entire consolidation. If it dips a bit, I'm very comfortable with it, because the larger time frame is looking absolutely phenomenal for Ethereum. First, major target, not just in terms of resistance, but like where I could potentially start taking off, is around the just under the 6K zone. That's where the fib lines up for the negative 0.618 zone. Targets could be up to 10K. That's what a lot of people are saying, but I think understanding where there could be some hesitation is good. And the first major zone that I'll be kind of anticipating some hesitancy will be around that $5,700 zone. So we have a ton of space to go. If you don't have any exposure in Ethereum, I don't think that it's too late. All right, so that's going to be Ethereum. Not a whole lot of discussion. We really started to call bullish at around the break of the $2,400 zone. Since then, my thesis has just been the same. Ethereum is bullish, period, end of sentence. Yes, there could be consolidations, there could be pullbacks, but from now until basically the end of the year, I'm expecting Ethereum to do really, really, really well. Next, we have Cardano. Cardano has been something that we've been keeping an eye on for a while. It's shown relative strength. Not as much as things, for example, like Solana, which has shown relative strength compared to Cardano. But since this break to the upside, breaking past the $1.4 range, we've been calling this ascending zone break to the upside since the break in July 23rd. So we've been calling it for a break, for a continuation, and we finally got it to really, really pull through, moving from $1.40 to $2.13 in a matter of like 7 days, 6 days, something like that. So I think right now it's a little late for Cardano, just because we had this massive move. I think there's going to be some consolidation for Cardano before we see our very significant next leg up. But my major targets for Cardano is like $3.80, right around there. So we got still a ton of room left for Cardano. Doesn't mean that it can't have overperformance. I do think that we can have overperformance, and if we have a strong continuation pattern, something along the lines of this at a later point, we can then look for another target like we always do, right? So that's at a later point, but at this point right now, we had a very strong push breaking this $1.40 level that we've been talking about for a very long time, and this is just a great illustration of alt season round 2 initiating. And we've seen relatively strong tokens appreciate at a greater rate earlier on in this second phase of the bull run. Things like Cardano did not go below the dollar range that it's been holding since February of 2021. For example, if you look at, let's say, DOT, go to February 2021, we can see that DOT did way worse because Cardano held this zone. Cardano held this zone all the way through, and then it started pushing to the upside, compared to DOT, where it was unable to hold this zone, and it tumbled all the way back down, showing significant relative weakness. So it makes sense that these relatively strong coins, like Cardano, like Solana, has been making higher highs. Like, let's go into February here. Solana's up from February compared to DOT. So these are the things that you look for. I was mainly looking at the higher lows because even Cardano did not have higher lows. Solana did have higher lows, which was very optimistic for SOL. And we'll touch on this one next. Not going to touch on DOT because it's not as relatively strong, but we can see Solana just absolutely mooning since our call that we made around $38. So let's zoom out or zoom in a little bit more. We saw great continuation patterns. The main one that I was looking at is around like $38 zone. So let's go into the 4 hour. What a phenomenal continuation pattern. You got this zone of confluence right around there. So let's get our zone of confluence, which is this all right here. This is zone of confluence. This is if you want to put feeler trades on, all that stuff. But you really don't want to be looking at, unless you're looking at like feeler trades, like I did say, having the highest confirmation breaking this zone of confluence would be a continuation pattern above it, and that's exactly what we saw. Once we saw a break, retest validating the previous resistance as a new level of support with the zone of confluence, we saw the initiation, and then we saw the massive parabolic push that happens afterwards. So really, Solana is absolutely beautiful. It's already played out for that strong push. We'll talk about a couple of altcoins that don't look like they've pushed up yet, but look like they will very soon. And we'll touch on those shortly. But just want to explain to you why I think that this is the altcoin part 2 is the BTC.D chart broke this major zone of confluence. We see relatively strong tokens like Cardano, Solana do really, really well, which is starting and initiating the bull run. And we see other tokens, like we can see within our DeFi tokens, start to wind up. So this is my DeFi page, I guess you could say. You have your Uni, you have your AAVE, you have your Sushi, and you have your Comp. So we see Uni completely break through this major zone of confluence. Let's do a quick draw right here. So this was Uni's major zone of confluence. It was pretty large, but it's all this zone right here. Once we broke this zone, it turned out to be a double bottom as well as a zone of confluence. And from the $22 zone, I feel that Uni is breaking to the upside and is going to be continuing. And we've seen that play through so far from $25 all the way up to $30. And I do think that it will continue. We're seeing a little bit of hesitation around that $30 zone. Does make sense because it was a major zone of confluence and sensitivity back in like May. It was a support, it was a resistance, so it does make sense. After our strong push to the upside, we went from $14 to $30. We 2x 100% in a matter of 26 days. So makes sense that we're going to see a little bit of rest before the next continual push to the upside. Let's zoom in on a smaller time frame here. It does look like we are creating a little bit of an ascending wedge. What would be fantastic is if we actually squeeze up from the wedge. So let's just quickly draw it here. There is our nice wedge. Ideally, what we're looking for is, let's get our print screen. So we see our nice key level of resistance right around here, and we're just pressing right up against it. So before I do it, I'm just going to talk about what we're looking for. This is the key level of resistance, and this is our wedge we're talking about. What we're looking for, let's do it in different colors so it's a little bit easier to see. Let's get the white, and let's get this going here. So ideally what you're looking to see is a melt up, right? You're looking for a break, you're looking for a validation of this key level of resistance acting as a new level of support. You can see that right here, and then you're looking for a continuation pattern somewhere within this zone above this previous resistance, which is acting as a new level of support, and then you're looking for that continuational pattern to push you further along. So that's the overall goal for this ascending wedge structure break. So we see our resistance right here, we see our resistance here along the higher highs, and we see this support zone right here, and then this is the midpoint. So what we're looking for is a strong break, breaking above these series of slightly higher highs. So you're seeing a strong, aggressive, impulsive push up. You're seeing some sort of consolidation, some sort of market breadth, and then you're seeing another continuation above, holding above this $30 zone. So ideally, you're looking to see a break, you're looking to see a pullback, validating this previous $30 resistance into a new level of support, and then you're going to see that continuational push to the upside. So Uni does look like it's setting up for a potential opportunity, unlike ADA or SOL, which already pushed up. Uni does look like it's in a place where we could see some further continuation soon. All right, gonna get a little drink of water, and then we're gonna jump into comp, which is looking very solid as well. All right, so if you're looking at a smaller time frame, like let's say a large time frame like the weekly or the 3-day, this is showing a reverse head and shoulders, which is a reversal pattern. We see the left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder, and the neckline is at the $400 and let's say $50 range. We see a big wick to the upside, but it came back down and held this major neckline. So really what we're looking for is a break of the neckline, validating it as a new level of support, and then a continual push to the upside, expanding in volatility, because we did see a pretty tight contraction here when we're looking at a smaller time frame. So when we are zooming in, let's get our print screen and let's talk about this a little bit more in detail. So we got our neckline, which was right here. This was a pop and then came right back. So on a larger time frame, this actually held the resistance, but on a smaller time frame, we can see that it was trading above this range a little bit. And then we see our left shoulder, we see our big head, and then we see our right shoulder holding this shoulder level right here around like $320. We see a squeeze at the right shoulder, which is this zone right here. This is a contraction in the volatility where during that contraction, you do see more buy volume and sell volume, which is fantastic to see. You see an initial push breaking the neckline, and then you see the price trading above the neckline, contracting in volatility. This is a really beautiful pattern, and I think comp's going to be looking like it will be pushing to the upside pretty soon. So let's zoom in on a smaller time frame going into the 4-hour, and then discussing what we're able to identify within a smaller time frame. So we're going to use our draw tool again. So this is that contraction. We can see that right here, making lower highs and higher lows, squeezing closer and closer towards the apex of the structure. We see our nice bullish push breaking above this major level of resistance. We can see all along here. This was a come right back. We see now it's trading above the zone, which is fantastic to see. Not the one I was looking for. Trading above the zone, which is fantastic to see. And we actually saw a squeeze occur during this pullback phase, which is exactly what we're looking for. So we saw an initial push, breaking this key level of resistance, winding up to actually break that push. Once we've broken it, we're retesting to validate this previous resistance as a new level of support. And now we're looking for the confirmation that we're now moving to the upside after our pullback phase. And it looks like we've made that confirmation right now. So we have this key level of resistance right here, as well as a confluence zone right here. We've already broken it on a smaller time frame. We've validated it as a new level of resistance. So it does look like we are winding up to break this 550 zone right here because of this structure, and we're going to have the wind up necessary to break this major zone of resistance. So comp is looking absolutely phenomenal. I'm very bullish on comp right now. It does look like the rest of the DeFi projects that I have on here are doing all right, but I think comp is the most beautiful in terms of the technical structure that we're seeing. AAVE also has a reverse head and shoulders. It's slowly trending up. Looking phenomenal. It did have this nice descending zone, which we can quickly draw here. Let's get that print screen again. So we initially had an expanding zone, as we can see right here. Like so, kind of like the S&P 500, we saw this major last dive to the downside, and then this was our reversal pattern where we saw the right shoulder, the head, or so the left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder, and then on a larger time frame, we can see that these were just pushes but came right back. So the neckline is actually really well respected at 350, which is right here. So on a small time frame, this is the perfect neckline, and then you see resistance here, 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 and here. So the fact that we broke it and we're now trading above this zone is fantastic to see. And if we do look at a smaller time frame just within this zone, I'm sure we can take a look at some smaller time frame continuational patterns, but it does look very bullish, and I'm expecting this to continue to move to the upside since it broke the reversal pattern towards the highs of like $800 for one uni. So that's going to be my overall anticipation for our one AAVE, sorry, $800 for one AAVE, not uni. So things look very bullish for the world of DeFi. Like I did say, the thing that I am looking out for most in terms of a leverage trade that is going to be an impulsive push is going to be comp. So let's move on to the next page. DOGE is looking absolutely phenomenal. We really called this bottoming formation to the T. Like, let's quickly pull it up right here into the meme coin money making. I'm going to quickly look at this zone right here. So we had, and then we can also quickly do a print screen just so we can talk about it here. So we had our initial descending zone like so. And then we had our consolidation and our reversal, which is our symmetrical triangle right here. And then I said that we would get one more small little ascending wedge before the major pop off. And then we can see that we've already had this descending zone. We've already had this ascending zone. And all we need to wait for, is that pop off. This was that symmetrical zone. And then we're going to see like an ascending zone somewhere up there to push off of. So that was my speculation for Doge. Let's see what the outcome was. Let's bring that back here. Literally to the T. I could not have asked for a better outcome for Doge. You see nice wind up, nice consolidation, nice contraction. You see a solid push up. You see a nice ascending wedge. And that ascending wedge allowed the wind up for the break to really start the new momentum to the upside. So I'm very bullish on Doge. Although it doesn't have a whole lot of utility, I think there's a lot of hype and community surrounding it. So that's the main reason why I'm thinking it's not a long-term investment or anything, but I do think that in this upcoming bull run, Doge will be performing very well. And like I said, we've literally called this to the T. So I'm expecting this to push to the upside. I think a lot of the meme coins are going to be doing well. Things like Shiba Inu, Elongate, I think will be doing pretty well. The more community-driven tokens, I think, will be doing the best in the meme coin market. Something that is not a part of the meme coin market that has been doing not superb is Quant. We already talked about Quant a little bit, talking about how it is similar to the basically the TCP/IP, which is like the interoperability protocol for the internet. It will allow different blockchains to communicate with each other, which will allow basically communications of like not even just blockchains, but all distributed ledger technologies to communicate with each other, which is basically like how is an Apple phone able to communicate with an Android phone, or why is Gmail able to communicate with Outlook on different routers, different devices. This is able to work because of the TCP/IP layering system, the 7-layer system there. So if you know a little bit about that, this will be a very, very interesting project. And it does look like it's consolidating very, very beautifully at around the 145 zone for the support. And once it breaks around 170, I'm going to be looking to put some leverage trades on here, or at least buy some more QNT. Buying anything around 150 I think is a really good deal, because I think it will push to the upside more and more as this bull run continues. But this is a really good opportunity, in my opinion, to get a very solid, fundamentally strong cryptocurrency, while a lot of these other coins like Ethereum or ADA or Solana are pumping, where they're getting all the traction, right? They're getting all the hype, they're getting all the interest, everyone's talking about them. But we were talking about quant, let's say 2 weeks ago, right? And everyone was talking about how interesting it is, how cool it is, because it recently pumped from like $60 to 180, and I got that entry like at like 61 or whatever, and that was phenomenal. But these are the times to look for these fundamentally strong projects that are consolidating, because they're not getting as much love. So you're able to get a really good entry before the next pump. You don't want to be entering Solana right now. It just doesn't make sense. There's the biggest fucking dildo there. It just, to me, it makes sense to wait for a contraction, a consolidation, where you're able to get a better price than at a very, very major high after the pump already basically completed for its first one. It could go higher, obviously. But it makes sense to like accumulate at a lower point, right? Or accumulate at a lower point for Solana. And I think for QNT, this is the point that is the best time to accumulate, in my personal opinion. Binance Coin, Cake, we've been talking about that for a while. They have very similar structures, and they're just slowly trekking to the upside. Very beautiful. Cake has a great auto Cake staking return. That's allowing you to get around 95% APR right now, which is a very fantastic return for, it's not a staking, sorry, it's a liquidity pool. It's very different things. But it is able to provide very solid, stable earnings. So if you don't know anything about PancakeSwap, definitely check that out. We do have a blog post on our website, performante.ca, going over how to set up your Cake liquidity pool. So then you can actually earn Cake every single day consistently. BNB. I use the Trust Wallet staking, and that is pretty solid. So if you don't have that, that's another way. I currently get like, it sways a lot more for BNB on the Trust Wallet using the staking third-party options, but I'm getting around like 30 to 25% right now APR for BNB staking, which is a pretty good opportunity there as well. So that's going to be most of the tokens. This is Luna. It just recently broke above its all-time high. Think about that. BTC, not even close to its all-time high. Think about Binance, PancakeSwap, Solana, Uni, AAVE, Comp, Sushi. Not a single token has hit its all-time high yet. But Luna is so relatively strong that we've never seen a $23 range before. This is the highest price that Luna has ever seen. So if you haven't heard about Luna, if you don't know anything about it, it's very interesting. They have a lot of different projects on the go. The main thing that they're focused on is the expansion of different stablecoins for different major currencies. US dollar, they're going to go into like the euro, they're going to go into the yen, I'm sure, the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, GBP, I'm sure, all these different major currencies. I think they will actually add a stablecoin to, which is pretty interesting. They're kind of basically going like the CBDC, central bank digital currency route, except it's just a single public company, so it's pretty cool. They also have a completely different thing, which is M assets, which is mirror assets. If you don't know anything about, basically they're able to mirror different assets, so you're able to trade shares of Tesla on Binance, for example. That's like what a mirror asset is. You're not actually owning the shares of Tesla, you're just using it to basically speculate on using this mirror asset protocol. The last thing we're going to touch on is Strong. To be honest, I don't know a whole lot about it. There has been some discussion on our Discord about Strong. I don't have any, but I am looking at it. It's kind of like a universal basic income for stakers. It's kind of like the simplest TLDR, too long didn't read, short sentence that I would explain. From a technical standpoint, it does look like it's setting up beautifully. It's seeing increasing volume coming into the market. You see a nice squeeze above a previous key level of resistance, respecting it as a new level of support, really close to its all-time high, showing very strong relative strength. Strong also did burn a lot of its tokens earlier this year or like late 2020, but it did recently burn a lot of its tokens, so they've reduced a lot of their supply in the market, which should increase the demand. Because let's say if you have, let's say Apple, if Apple reduced their share count, their float by half, the amount of money that it would take to purchase one share of Apple would theoretically double or increase significantly, because for one share of Apple is representing a certain percentage of the actual company. Similar to if you were to burn half of the tokens for Strong, theoretically the value of each Strong token should increase twice. Theoretically, obviously it's not always going to be directly correlated, but reduction in supply equals increase in demand, or the increase in price, because if the demand stays the same, less supply, more has to get purchase in order to purchase one Strong or one whatever coin you are looking into. So this does look like a pretty good opportunity. I do have to look more into it, but from a technical standpoint, it does look very solid. So that's really going to be my overall view of the cryptocurrency market. Things are pumping. Matic is a relatively strong token that recently just absolutely pumped, breaking and then holding our key level of support basically right at $1. Very strong level, and it does look like we are setting up for another continuation push to the upside for Matic. Chainlink is a coin that had a lot of hype in 2017, 2018, slowly started to fade away, and is just slowly dropping down the list of the cryptocurrency market cap list, but still something to know. I think things like DOGE, or things like Polkadot are kind of overtaking Link in the terms of utility, in terms of awareness, in terms of community. So if I had to pick, I'd probably go Polkadot instead of Chainlink, but it's still a pretty good project. XRP is getting a lot of interest recently, which is fantastic to see after a long drawn-out expansion phase. We did see an initial contraction, as we can see kind of right there, and then we just connected the higher or the lower highs right here to create our expansion phase. So it does look like we're out of this consolidation for XRP, and we're now continuing to push to the upside. So overall, altcoins are looking very strong. Like I said, Comp's looking absolutely phenomenal. Strong's looking really solid as well. And that's going to be my two key ones that I will be looking at in the short term. But in the long term, we've already talked about it. The DeFi projects I'm looking at is Comp, AAVE, Uni is really something I like to keep an eye on. Binance Coin, Cake, like I talked about, that auto Cake reward system is absolutely phenomenal. If you don't have any quant, definitely check into it. Check into Luna as well. Definitely a very interesting project with extreme relative strength. Just want to reiterate that Luna has extreme relative strength. So thank you very much for watching. That's about it for this video. Hopefully it was educational. If you do find these useful, entertaining, informative, it would be greatly appreciated if you do give this a thumbs up and subscribe, so we know to keep making more videos like this. So thank you very much for watching and tuning in, and until next time, have a good one, traders.